We've been living in Beatrice now, our home on wheels, for 6 months. She's seen a lot of the country, and we've been through all sorts of different weather, from ice and snow in the mountains, to rain on the coast, to extreme heat in the desert. Because we also live in her full-time, we work regularly and go on a lot of adventures, which means we know how we live and we know what works and what doesn't for us. Today we're going to share with you our biggest regrets on our van build and trust that these tips can help you as you build out your own van.
Overall, we love Beatrice. She's built strong, she's functional, and she served us well over the last 6 months.
But overall, there are some things we do need to change, and we didn't even know we needed to change them until we really started living in Beatrice full-time and had been in van life for at least a few months. So here are the 8 things that we would change about Beatrice in our van build.
But before that, please subscribe so you can stay up to date with other van life tips and adventures.
So the first thing that we would change in our van is insulating the floor. We didn't insulate. We had originally totally planned to insulate the floor. It seems like a logical and smart choice. However, we talked to a guy that had a van build company. He was also a contractor. He seemed like he knew what he was talking about, and he assured us that we would be totally warm and fine if we didn't insulate the floor. However, that is not true. When we're in cooler weather, this floor is cold when we get up in the morning. So much so that we lose heat in the rest of the van. So this floor, not having it insulated, means our van is cooler in cold weather, which definitely makes a difference. And not only would we insulate the floor in the future, but we would also add these super sweet heating pads, so we had heated floors in the winter as well, which is pretty awesome. So I'm going to leave a description for all of you to check out the heating pads that we would use now if we were going to redo our van build. And we would definitely use more insulation, the wool insulation that we used in the walls and in the ceiling, in the floor as well.
So next up is our heater under the passenger seat. Now, if I was to do this again, I would have put the heater in the garage. Installing under here, for one thing, was a huge pain in the butt, but I just did it because I was watching everybody on YouTube and that's what everybody was doing. And then one night after I built the van, I saw a guy on a van build and he was talking about the science of putting the heater in the back. I'm going to show you that right now. So as I was saying, I would put the heater back here, and the reason being, the air intake of the heater would suck the cold air from the garage, blow the hot air out, suck the warm air back around, so it would create a convection so the warm air is circulating. As of right now, the heater is under the passenger seat and has nowhere for the air to go back and recirculate to warm up again, so it's always taking cold air in from the cockpit rather than from the back and then circling back around. It's just a more efficient way to keep the van warm.
The third thing we would change in our van is some of the wood, basically the structure and the framing. So we used all wood in the van for the framing, and this has been quite heavy. Our van is about 9,400 pounds with us in it. So we'd like to bring down the weight just a little bit. And so if we were going to build the van over, we'd use aluminum framing. We'd still have our wood cabinets and the cedar paneling and the tile and everything like that. But we'd definitely change to aluminum framing. So all of this water, it goes into our gray tank. Our gray tank is about 11 gallons, which seems like a lot, but we have a 33-gallon water tank. And sometimes we forget to empty our gray tank just because we take a couple showers, we've just been really busy, or we're sleepy, we're tired, and things like that. So all that water, if we do not empty it, it backs up into the shower. We've had that happen probably more than we would like to admit, and it's this disgusting sink water and it smells terrible. And so the one thing we would like to do is add a water gauge to our gray water tank. We have one for our regular freshwater tank, but not for our gray tank. So we definitely want to add a water gauge so we can look at it and remember to empty it, because if we don't, it backs up and it's disgusting, and sometimes we can't empty the tank when that happens because we're in an area that it's not appropriate to empty the gray tank. So it just sits there and it smells. And then the bottom of the toilet and everything, it's just nasty. We suggest it. Take our word on that. If you're gonna build your van, add water gauges to both the fresh and the gray water.
Okay, so the other thing that I would like to change is our water heater. In here is our water heater. You can see it right here. It's a 7.5 gallon Bosch water heater. It runs on 120 volts or 110, and it is 1800 watts. It's a power sucker. And it just takes up a lot of battery. We can only run it when we have shore power, plugged in an RV park, or while we're driving. We just can't sit here and just turn it on with just strictly battery. I mean, we could, but it drains the batteries really fast and sometimes overloads our inverter. So what I would do is add a tankless water heater that is heated by propane. So in here is our 2000 watt inverter. We have a few appliances that are close to 2000 watts, 1500 watts. It was our induction burner, which we stopped using. Our water heater, as I said before, is 1800 watts. And our Vitamix that we use is close to 1500 watts. And sometimes when we're using the Vitamix, the alarm goes off and sometimes the inverter shuts down. So we have to like run the car. So the alternator is powering up the systems in order to run the Vitamix. But if we bumped up our inverter to 3000 watts, we would be clear of all those power spikes. So it wouldn't set up the alarm and shut off our system. And that's happened quite a lot of times with the Vitamix. So if you're planning on using a Vitamix or any kind of appliances that are around 1500, 1800 watts, go with 3000, because sometimes you're already using like 200 or 300 watts for other things in the van, and then you're running at 1800 or 1500 watt. You're over 2000 right there, and your system's going to get shut down. So I would go at least 3000 watts for the inverter.
As you might have noticed after talking about the floor, we did not winterize our van really properly. That's because we didn't really expect to be in cold weather that much, but now that we're really living in the van full time, we realize that sometimes we want to be in the mountains and be in 16-degree weather. When we were in Stanley, Idaho, we got there before it snowed. However, it was in the teens and our pipe froze. It wouldn't even drain in the sink, and it was sloshing around when we drove, and it was just really messy. Just one of those things that was a huge inconvenience. The one thing we would do to winterize the van is get pipe heaters. So our pipes are all underneath here. We do not have to worry about them busting or anything like that, but when they freeze, it is a huge issue. Even if it's just going to be a couple times a year, it still matters. So we definitely add some pipe heaters, which we're definitely going to. We're going to be doing some upgrades to the van sometime in the next few months. So be sure to subscribe if you want to watch us do all the renovations and things like that. A lot of the things we're going through now, we're actually going to be making changes to, but this is definitely at the top of our list, is to put on pipe heaters, because you just never know what's going to happen. I mean, look at what just happened in Texas. Like, it was snowing, and that was like such a huge issue. So we just want to be really ready for everything. So pipe heaters, absolute must for winterizing the van.
So the last thing I would change in the van build, if I had to do it all over again, is the batteries. We currently have 4 150 amp hour AGM batteries, which gives us a total of 600 amp hours. Now, with those 600 amp hours with AGM, as you know, you can only go about 50% of that, so that's really only 300 amp hours that you can use, because you don't want to constantly drain your AGM batteries, because that'll kill the life of them very fast. So what I would do is use lithium batteries. I would just have 4 of them, because they would take up the same exact space as I already made for the AGM batteries. I would have 400 amp hours, and I could actually use all 400, which right there is 100 amp hours more than what I already have. So there you have it, the 8 things that we would change. Relocate a heater from under the passenger seat to the garage. Insulate the floors, put a water gauge in the gray tank, up the inverter to 3000 watts, change the AGM to lithium batteries, use aluminum framing.
We'd add pipe heaters to winterize the van as well.
We would install a propane system and use a tankless water heater.
So as you can tell, a lot of these things are just about winterizing the van and just making it more functional for our lifestyle. We really, I think like most people, like I don't know anybody that has gotten in their van and been 100% satisfied. There's always going to at least be one thing that you're going to want to change when you get in a van, because you have to see how you live in it. A lot of our expectations when we got in the van were different than actually how we live now. Just be realistic in how you're actually going to live your life.
And if you know someone that's building a van, please share this video with them, because this could help them. It could help them a lot.
Yeah, and be sure if you like this video, we appreciate a thumbs up, and we'd also like to hear from you. So leave us a comment, and also if you have any questions, Brian and I like to be as big of a help as we can. So leave a comment below if you like this video, if you have any questions at all like that. And if you want to join us on more adventures and also get some really realistic tips on van life, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We're Vanhalla Adventures. Thank you all for joining on the ride, and we'll see you for our next adventure.
See you later.